I'm Joe Augustinelli, the social media manager at Greenway Health, and this is another episode of Putting Possibility into Practice, the podcast from Greenway Health. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing social media for your medical practice, and I'm joined by a couple of our customers, one in the Palm Harbor and Trinity, Florida area, and then another in the Irving, Texas area. First, we bring on Dr. Mike Jordan. He is the founder and CEO of Eastlake Pediatrics with offices in Palm Harbor and Trinity, Florida. You may recognize Dr. Jordan as he was featured in a blog at the end of last year discussing social media and your practice and utilizing social media to help grow your practice. And I welcome Dr. Jordan to this edition of Putting Possibility into Practice. And first, Dr. Jordan, just talk a little bit about your practice, locations, as I mentioned, and the services that you provide.
Yeah, my name is Mike Jordan, and like Joe said, we are located in Palm Harbor in Trinity, Florida, which is in Pinellas County on the West Coast. And we are a pediatric practice that has 2 locations, and we have 6 providers. We started in August of 2004 as a paperless office, and we started with Entergy version 1 and have been on it ever since. And it is a pleasure to be here.
And Dr. Jordan, talking about social media and your practice, very heavy on the social media use. What networks do you utilize here at Eastlake Pediatrics?
Typically, the main social media outlet we use is Facebook, and we have actually, just as a result of the webinar, we have gotten into Instagram, and so those are the 2 main thrusts of what we're doing with social media.
And the webinar that Dr. Jordan speaks of is a recent webinar that we hosted at Greenway Health discussing social media use in your practice. And you can visit our YouTube channel for more information and to watch that webinar on demand on your schedule. Getting back now to your use of social media, how does your practice utilize Facebook and now Instagram?
Well, we use it as a way to kind of break down the walls between our practice and our families, so we want them to be able to engage with us and to, feel like they're part of our family. And so we focus on just trying to be a little bit unique and trying to have an idea of what's going on in pop culture and just not necessarily focus on a lot of mundane medical information, but just somehow utilizing social media to engage with them and to let them feel that they're a part of our whole entire family.
And you were just telling me an interesting story now. Actually, in your waiting room in real time, you can keep track of patients can see if they like the page right away. There's a counter that'll update automatically.
Yeah, we have this counter. It's called Smurl, and you just hook it up to Wi-Fi, and it is then attached to either your Facebook or Instagram account, and it just in real time, if someone likes your page, it'll flip. So it's been something that kids like to see. Oh, look, we don't like their page, so it kind of is advertising our Facebook page to encourage them to like it. They like it within the waiting room, and they see the change in the numbers right in front of them.
And why the decision to get active on social media?
Well, I think that it's something that our patients and our population are doing on a regular basis. And so we felt that it was a good way to just show a different side of our practice other than just coming in, you're seeing us because your child's sick or they need shots. We wanted to create an atmosphere that's fun, that, they feel like they can come in here and engage with us on a personal level, and that we're not just, people in white coats that come in and take care of their problems and send them on their way.
And have you seen results from your social media use in the growth and marketing of your practice?
Yeah, we've really seen a tremendous amount of growth in the practice. I think it endears the patients to us. It gives them the ability to latch onto us in a different way. And I think that fosters the patient-provider relationship. They feel like we've gained their trust, that they are, it kind of breaks down barriers where they feel comfortable to share things with us. They feel like they're part of our practice, and they kind of take ownership of that and can feel that we care about them and we take ownership of them as our patients and our families.
And finally, how have you seen, and maybe the other providers, patient engagement increase as a result of the use of social media?
Well, I think, we see that every day when the patients come in and they talk about it, or they interact with us, or they want to share stories with us, and they seem to open up and talk to us about their personal lives that maybe they wouldn't otherwise, or they feel comfortable coming to us in instances where perhaps maybe they wouldn't in the past, or the other thing that you get is word of mouth. They like to talk about us. Oh, our pediatrician's great. He does this, that, and the other. But yeah, we see him on Facebook. Yeah, go check him out on social media. They do these silly things, or they, keep us entertained, and they're not always trying to bombard us with health information. And it gives them kind of a window to talk about us in a way that maybe they wouldn't otherwise.
Any advice for a practitioner who maybe is just breaking into the medical field and thinking about getting on social media but have some hesitations?
Yeah, I think, there's some sort of, it depends on, your comfort level. Everyone's going to have a certain amount of information they want to kind of put out there. And I think you have to be smart about it. You can't, do things where you're violating HIPAA. You have to consider what your audience is and what they like to see. And you have to pay attention to the metrics. So, you need to be constantly doing it. You can't just do social media once every 3 weeks. That's not going to give you any results. And it's also not going to give you any information. So when you start posting things, you need to pay attention. Where do you see the engagement coming from? What posts that you put out there get the most response, and get a positive response? Because the more response you get, the more interaction you get, the comments that you get, the more it's going to be kind of spreading around and passing along the message that you're trying to pass. So I think the first thing you have to do is understand your audience, and then you have to pay attention to what you're doing and keep at it, and then kind of tweak what you're doing based on the response that you get.
And I know 2 questions ago I said last question, but now I got another question as you were just bringing it up. You talk about comments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something in place where, if patients comment or message the page, how do you get back to patients?
Yeah, we have actually something that we use now. It's called Rhinogram, and that is a unique program that I think our patients have really liked. It allows them to text our main phone number and with their phone. So we have someone that monitors the program all the time. And so if you're in the middle of a meeting or something and your child needs to be seen, you can just text the office, and then someone will get back with you and can communicate you via text. But it also allows you to do it through Facebook Messenger, and they are able to get lots of messages that way. So that has also increased our access. Because in the busy times, if you're busy working as a parent and you can't get to the phone to wait on hold if it's busy time, or you can't send us some email through the portal, you can just send us a quick text. Hey, do you have any appointments today? My kid's sick. I need to do something, and we can respond to you in real time. And it has been really a really great addition to the practice.
And I thank Dr. Mike Jordan of Eastlake Pediatrics for taking time out of his day to visit our podcast and be a guest for the first time. We look forward to touching base with Dr. Jordan from time to time. And a reminder, you can like Eastlake Pediatrics on Facebook, www.facebook.com, and just search Eastlake Pediatrics. That's EAST Lake Pediatrics. So once again, thanks, Dr. Jordan, for your time and great insight on using social media to promote your practice. And now I'll bring in Dr. Jeff Livingston of MacArthur OBGYN in Irving, Texas, to discuss how his practice utilizes Facebook and a number of social media networks in marketing and growing their practice.
MacArthur Medical Center, we've always been really proactive in our use of internet technology. And we try to be a mission-based practice. And so one of our missions is to really impact teen pregnancy in our surrounding area. And so back in 2003, 2004, I was doing lectures at all of the high schools and talking about how to avoid teen pregnancy, and if you were pregnant, how to handle that. And one evening, I was at home and I was talking to my family, and my 15-year-old said, "Dad, that's silly. If you want to reach the teenagers, then you need to get on MySpace." And at the time, I had no idea what MySpace was. But I joke, if your 15-year-old actually takes the time to talk to you, you should stop and listen. So I said, "Hey, why don't you show me what that is?" And we sat down together on the computer. and my 15-year-old helped create Dr. Jeff Livingston MySpace page. So the next time I went to a high school, I put that up on the screen, and all of the teenagers in the audience, they laughed and they giggled, and I thought, maybe this wasn't a great idea. I went back to my office, and my account was going ping, 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 ping. There were questions after questions after questions coming in. And these were really detailed questions about, could I get pregnant if this happened, or what do I do if this happened? And this was all pre-HIPAA, so sort of guidelines of how physicians should use social media. They weren't established yet. In fact, no one was calling it social media. But a light bulb really went off for me, is that here, as a practice, I'm trying to impact a community. I'm doing it in an old-fashioned way. And the community is telling me how they want to talk. So we need to adapt. And so from that point on, MacArthur became really an industry leader in how physicians use social media. So as MySpace went away and Facebook took off, we really started using Facebook as an outreach tool. And we use different strategies there. We try to educate patients through Facebook. We try to make sure patients in the community are aware of the services that we offered. But really also, we try to create a positive feel. I always say, if I can put a post up that makes somebody smile, then that's a win for the day. But also, if I can create an atmosphere through Facebook where a patient feels comfortable coming in and then talking about something that they weren't comfortable talking about before, just because we created that positive relationship through the internet, then this is a huge success.
And Dr. Livingston, what other channels do you use for patient outreach when it comes to digital media?
We use a variety of other channels as patient outreach tools. And I'll tell you a couple of really exciting moments that happened through our use of social media. So my favorite post I ever did was one a few years ago. And it was one of our physicians, Dr. Fanous, and he was at a birthday party with his child, and he had rented one of those water slides. And so he's sliding down the water slide with his 2-year-old in his lap. And the way they took the picture, all you can see is the bottom half of his body with his knees kind of pulled back and the child's legs kind of hanging out between right as he hits the water. So on Facebook, we posted, MacArthur OB-GYN, in honor of National Midwifery Day, Dr. Fanous performs a double footling breech home water birth of a 32-pound infant. And that got so many likes and so many comments. And I've talked about that post before. Marketers look at that post and say, what are you doing? You're not selling a product. It didn't tell people what you did. It has no value. But I push back and I say that's one of the best posts we ever did, because it made people smile, it made people laugh, but it also showed MacArthur Medical Center is a place that's fun. We enjoy our life. We enjoy taking care of people. Dr. Fanous is now not just a random doctor in the practice. He's a dad. He's a real person. He's someone who cares. And I know there are people that saw that picture and then left with a different feeling about who we are as a practice. That's one of my favorite stories from social media. Another thing that happened last year was Hurricane Harvey. And when Hurricane Harvey hit, probably other listeners on this remember seeing it, but there was a post on Facebook that went around, which was elderly people, and they were in their wheelchairs, and the wheelchairs were being covered up with water, and there was just really no way to get them out. And it was just a devastating picture to look at. And I was at home. It was Sunday night. I was laying in my bed, and I looked at that, and I just had a terrible feeling in my stomach. But it occurred to me, what are the pregnant people going to do? And there was lots of talk about other people, but I hadn't heard anything on the news about pregnancy. And if you think of pregnancy, that's not something you can delay. If you're due tomorrow, you're due tomorrow, whether can be in Houston or not. And so quickly I just typed out that if there were any pregnant patients displaced from the hurricane, they had a home here. We would see them, call us, we would take them in, and we would make sure they got their pregnancy cared for until they could either go home or until they were able to deliver. And then I went to sleep. Then I woke up the next morning and I realized, what have I done? Because the post had kind of gone viral and there were thousands of clicks and shares and likes and comments. And I quickly thought, I probably should tell the people that are going to answer the phone what I did, and I probably ought to tell the hospitals that this might happen. So I made some quick phone calls, and everybody was on board to help. Not one person pushed back. All 3 of our hospitals were excited to get involved, and our call center was ready to take those calls. And we had some people that ended up coming in, and it was a wonderful experience for us and for them. And I think as physicians and the staff of MacArthur, it was really an opportunity to give back. And I think everybody felt good about that. If it wasn't for our social media presence, that would never have been possible.
And I thank my guests on this episode of Putting Possibility into Practice. First, Dr. Michael Jordan, the founder and CEO of Eastlake Pediatrics in Trinity and Palm Harbor, Florida, and Dr. Jeff Livingston, who you just heard from, of Irving, Texas. I thank them both for taking time out of their busy schedules to join me on this episode of Putting Possibility into Practice. Just a reminder that you can subscribe to our podcast. We are on Apple iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and now the Stitcher app. So you can find us on your app of choice for podcasting. I'm Joe Augustinelli, the social media manager at Greenway Health. Thank you for listening to this episode of Putting Possibility into Practice, the podcast from Greenway Health.